All right. Oh man, this is long overdue. I've been wanting to do this for probably over a decade, and people have always been like, "Why don't you podcast? Why don't you do a podcast? Why don't you do a show? Why don't you do something that reflects who you are?" And at the end of the day, I get to work in a lot of great milieus. I work at radio. I do a little bit of TV. I work in events, and I've gotten to talk to some really cool people over the years. But I needed to do something a little bit different. I needed to get on here and have a chance to do maybe a long form interview, maybe talk about stuff that I'm passionate about. And that's what Rockman Power Hour is going to be. It's going to be all about passion. It's going to be about great conversations with interesting people about things that are awesome. I think I just came up with a tagline for the show, but this is something, again, I've been thinking about forever. And I am so excited to finally be doing the first episode of the Rockman Power Hour. By the way, I hope you enjoyed that theme song. My buddy DMC did that with my buddy Brett from Crazy Town, put that together for me. And I'm so grateful to have that. And we've got awesome people working behind the scenes to make this thing happen. Julia is my producer, and she's just phenomenal. And she's helped to push me to get this thing off the ground. So eternally grateful to her. And, I don't want to be on here talking by myself all the time. I'll talk to guests, but it'll be great to have someone else to bounce stuff off of. And who better than my buddy, Ryan Stick. Ryan is going to be joining me on this journey called the Rockman Power Hour. What's up, buddy?
Oh, I'm doing good, man. This is a monumental occasion. We've been talking about this for months even. We're like, let's start. And like, now's the time.
I know.
It's Dune time. It's awesome.
Well, this is the great thing about this whole episode. It's all about Dune. And, the guests that we're going to have on today reflect what's going on with Dune, because as of today, the new Dune movie is out. I've seen the Dune movie. It's absolutely phenomenal. Denis Villeneuve has just knocked it out of the park. And Dune is one of the books that people said would never, ever be able to be translated into a film. It's been tried many times. We're going to dive into that. We're going to dive into how Dune has been attempted on the screen many times, how it's succeeded at one point to actually get on screen, to be later just destroyed by critics. And there was a plan to do Dune by a really, really well-known filmmaker who was a bit out there that never got off the ground and is still legendary. And what didn't even happen. So there's all this mystique around this book, Dune. And we're going to dive into that today on the podcast. But I have to give a big shout out to our first ever sponsor, Prospect Strings. Now, Prospect Strings approached us when we were announced that we were doing the podcast, and they wanted to get involved. So I'm just super grateful to Prospect. Wayne has got a really, really cool company that does awesome stuff if you're someone who's into stringed instruments. They have got strings, they have got tuners, they have got everything you need for a stringed instrument and more. And what I really liked when I spoke to Wayne, I said, tell me a bit about you guys. Like, tell me a bit about what you do. And, I had heard of Prospect, but I really wanted to dive into Wayne's mind and find out his background. And this is a guy that's worked in this industry for years and years and years. They recently celebrated their 5th year in business. And if you go to their website, you'll see some awesome stuff. But Ryan, the thing that got me is when he told me the type of strings that he imported from Germany. Now,
see that sentence right there shows an amount of care for strings, because it's like, I imported these strings from Germany. Our bragging rights are amongst musicians. Okay.
So if you ever look at the old footage of Paul McCartney playing his Hofner bass,
okay,
those were pyramid strings, and pyramid strings around musicians, are known as like, these are the strings. And those are the kind of products you can see with Prospect. So they bring in awesome stuff. They're great people. They take attention to detail. They care about musicians. They care about what you're using for your instruments. So we want to thank Prospect for being our first ever sponsor. And I'm excited to have them on board. It kind of fits. We're both guys who have a bit of a music background. We've both kind of dipped our toe in the music industry. So
little bit.
So it's nice.
You more than me.
You might have dipped your foot in, and I was submersed for a little while, but regardless, we both have experience with music, and you know how important it is to go to a place that has everything you need and to have that helping hand, and they do it. So thank you to Wayne and Prospect for being our first ever sponsor of the Rockman Power Hour. I think it's pretty cool.
Hell yeah. Awesome.
So Ryan, Dune. Now you're in a very interesting position for this podcast because you have never seen anything to do with Dune.
When it comes to Dune, I've had my head in the sandworm.
So you don't know anything. I mean, I'm sure now. I mean, you watched the Jodorowsky documentary, which we spoke about, and you at length. Now, just to let people know, if you don't know, Alejandro Jodorowsky, very, very interesting filmmaker. He's an art house movie guy. He is a true artist. And he decided that he wanted to make a book based on Frank Herbert's Dune. And he almost did it. I mean, he had a whole team together. It was going to happen. And just at the last minute, the plug was completely pulled out from under him. The carpet, I should say, the rug. The plug was pulled out of the project. It just did not get greenlit. It didn't happen. So they made a documentary about it. And you watched that. What was your impression on that?
Well, it's amazing to see, like, in hindsight, it's really fun to hear a story about something that never came into fruition. But what boggled my mind, and mutual friends were telling me about this documentary before I had ever heard of it or seen it, is that he assembled this team of producers and special effects artists that would be the go-to people for science fiction for the next 30 years in Hollywood. In fact, stuff from the Bible that they put together, the Dune Bible, and shots and ideas made their way into very famous other movies, like the beginning of Contact. And all these other incredible scenes all came from this documentary. So it's amazing to see. Yeah, the movie didn't happen, but the effect it had on the world still happened. So that's pretty amazing to me.
I mean, he had Geiger, who was designing stuff for him, who went on to design Alien. He had so many great people. And the thing is, you watch the documentary, and I really encourage people, if you've never seen Jodorowsky's Dune documentary, you can find it on Amazon Prime, I believe, and you can buy it, but it's not hard to find. And it is really a trip because this guy's vision, I mean, who he wanted to have attached to this movie, he had talked to Mick Jagger at one point. He had talked to Pink Floyd about doing the soundtrack. He had multiple soundtracks for different planets, and Pink Floyd was going to do a soundtrack. He talked to, and all these people were on board. I mean, he had Salvador Dali, who is like a legend in the art world, agreeing, to be in this. He had so many people that were going to attach themselves to this. And then he went to the studio and says, this needs to be 10 hours. I mean, I'm sorry. If you're a Hollywood studio and some guy comes to you with all these crazy ideas and I need giraffes and it's going to be 10 hours. I mean, the plug's going to get pulled on you. Maybe not today, but can you imagine back then? And this is pre-Star Wars.
Yeah. That's the most important part, is it's pre-Star Wars. Even Tatooine, I think, was inspired by the idea of Dune.
Well, this is the other thing, okay? And let's address the elephant in the room. Dune is a massive book, okay? Which is not an easy read. It's hard to get through. And I am sure that George Lucas read Dune and just pilfered through it and just took for his movie. It's not a doubt in my mind. He always talks about how, it was all about the serials and this and that. No, I mean, listen, dude, Dune inspired a hell of a lot of stuff in science fiction, Star Wars included. So there's a lot of mystique around this. And I think having the first podcast be about Dune is topical. We're going to have Denis Villeneuve on the show.
Wow.
Who directed Dune. We're going to have Rebecca Ferguson, who stars in Dune. And we're going to have, she's amazing. In Dr. Sleep as Rose the Hat. She was just
so amazing. Yeah.
She's so amazing. And we're going to have Bill Kelliher from Mastodon, who's going to spend a good chunk of the show with us talking about Dune, because what we did is we arranged through Warner Brothers to have a screening for him to see the movie, and be able to chat with us. So this is going to be a lot of fun. Again, super happy you're with us. I want to welcome you to the first ever Rockman Power Hour. Sit back, relax. Let's have some fun. And don't forget to do all the housekeeping, like, subscribe, hit that button that'll alert you when we drop a new podcast, and join us on this journey. And we really, really appreciate it, because we're passionate guys, me and Ryan, and we're going to talk about some pretty nerdy, passionate stuff, and we're going to have some awesome guests. So welcome to the first ever Rockman Power Hour. All right, so here we are. This is the first episode of the Rockman Power Hour. We're talking all things Dune, and what I'm excited about is that one of the guys that's coming on the show today is a friend of mine, and he's also a fan of Dune, and he's seen the movie. Now, keep in mind the movie opened everywhere else in the world except for North America, and it's opening today in North America. But I'm really, really happy to have Bill Kelliher from Mastodon joining us. Bill's seen the movie. Bill's got good Dune stories from previous Dune incarnations, and you've got some thoughts on both. So, well, first of all, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Hey, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it, Jason.
Yeah, man. Always like having you. Always like chatting, and it's always like it's nice when we can chat about stuff that we're both passionate about. And I know that this new movie, you saw it a few days back, and you really, really liked it.
I thought it was magnificent. I knew, I just had a feeling it was going to be, it's got a lot to live up to, honestly. It's been 1984, I think the original Dune came out.
Yeah.
David Lynch. And I've literally been waiting since 1984 to see it again. And this is like in a new, in 2021, whole new cast of characters and a different adaptation because it's the future.
Yeah.
And, there's so much more imaginative things they can come up with special effects, and they've had a long time to really perfect it. So, I would have to say it was probably one of the greatest movies I've seen in a very, very long time.
See, I felt the exact same way when I walked out of the screening. I was blown away. And, a lot of the times when I go into these movies, I look, and I'm a fan. I'm a fanboy from the get-go. I want to go in and I want to love your movie. I don't want to go in there and tear it apart. I want to be a fan. So I go in there with every intention to be a fan. And when I walked out, I liked it so much. And I was like, I had nobody to talk to about it because I saw this movie about a month ago and I had no one to chat with and say, is this as good as I think it is? And then when you walked out and you messaged me, you're like, dude, wow. I
was on cloud 9, man. I was like floating. I'm not gonna give anything away, but I was floating.
Yeah.
Like some characters may or not do.
If people don't know, I know we have been talking about Dune, but if people don't know, the book Dune came out in 1965. It was always deemed this book that was impossible, absolutely impossible to turn into a film. No one thought this could be done. And, when Alejandro Jodorowsky decided he was going to try to take a crack at it, he had the craziest ideas around this book. And he had this insane vision, which, the documentary in 2013 talks about. But you watch that documentary. Now, I know that we've got the David Lynch version. We've got the Denis Villeneuve version, which I think we'll agree is the gold standard right now for Dune. I mean, that's what this book needed to be. But Jodorowsky's Dune probably would have been something really special.
That really would have been out there. Just his relation with, he's so into it. He's like, over his head deep into this book, and just as a person, as a human, as a filmmaker, and what he wanted to bring was the perception of being on LSD without taking LSD,
right?
Watching the movie. And I really think he could have done that very, very easily, just because he's such a crazy, weird character, and he's so he lives it. He so much that he wanted Paul Atreides, the character. He was like, who can play this person? Who can be this crazy, very super strong character, the Duke's son, the one, the chosen one or whatever. And he's like, my son, of course. So he, his son was 12 years old, I think, and he starred in like El Topo, or maybe it was Holy Mountain. I forget which one. Maybe both.
Yeah.
So his son was already an actor and involved, and he made his son at like 12 or 13 years old take like karate, jujitsu, judo, kung fu, like all this stuff. He said, you're going to be Paul Atreides, but you have to be trained as a warrior. Like just like Leto would train his own son. So
Right.
it was like he became, you know what I mean? He like became the movie, the book, and he didn't see the movie obviously because it was before the movie, but he literally just became the book. It was like, I'm really going to train my kid to be like, you don't have to train him in all those things. He can just act, but not for Jodorowsky.
No, and he was so committed to this thing. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't get my kids to take out the garbage.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
That's hard.
How could you get your kid? You had this crazy French martial artist just I was watching the interview with the kid with the son, who's not a kid anymore. He's probably 40 something, but
yeah,
he was like, it was hell. It was hell. I was a kid and I was being trained every day, 5 hours a day by this fucking French martial artist dude in all these different martial art fighting styles, and for what? Something they never even did the movie. So
well, and this is the thing, like when you watch that documentary, and if people don't know what we're talking about, it's called Jodorowsky's Dune. You can find it. I know right now it's streaming on Amazon Prime. This really, I mean, he had an insane vision. And the craziest thing is that he hadn't even read the book. Like he just went into this thing going, oh, my producer that I'm working with says we should do Dune and let's do Dune. And I think what he was going after in this day and age might have happened in a miniseries, but there's no way someone was going to greenlight a 10-hour, this thing was destined to fail from the beginning. But it just kind of shows you how difficult this book in a lot of people's eyes was to make into a film. I mean, it looked like it was an impossible, and
well, the thing about the movie, the problem with Hollywood, it's always been a problem with Hollywood, is they take the artistic novel or book and they make it ready for the masses. And a lot of these books aren't ready for the masses, and they're dark and dirty, and there's weird shit going on that's unexplained, and they try to explain it. And I was afraid, and I was hoping that, like, okay, well, they're not going to Hollywood it up and make it cheesy and make it safe for like consumption. You know what I mean? Like, I want it to be gritty and dirty the way like Blade Runner, the new one was,
yeah.
And the old one. It's like, those are books, that you have to be really careful, and you want to keep it true to the artistic, it's art. You shouldn't have to ask permission, just like Jodorowsky said. He was like, I think he turned to like Stanley Kubrick to help direct, and he was like too full of himself for Jodorowsky, and he was too busy thinking about how much money the Space Odyssey was going to make, 2001, and he's like, no, I don't make art for money. I make art for art because I want to get it out of my head and out of my brain, and it's for people to enjoy, not just to make money from. So that was kind of, and they did a great job with the latest one. It's incredible.
Oh yeah. And I mean, you go from Jodorowsky's vision, which I think was ambitious. And like you said, it was almost infant-like in its innocence, like the idea that you're going to actually get this thing made. I mean, and when he was approaching Dali, and Dali was just trying to give him any excuse not to have him come on. And he just kept saying yes to him. It was almost like, it was like a chess match between the two of them. But I think, that passion that he had for the movie, and for the adaptation, his version of it kind of transcended from his version all the way to Denis, and kind of did a little leapfrog hop over the Lynch version, because as much as you and I love the Lynch version, after seeing Denis' movie, you realize that you cannot make Dune into a 2-hour movie. You just can't do it. You're going to miss too much stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose you could if you didn't read the book, and you could just kind of skip over a lot of stuff. I mean, when I went to see the movie, I missed the first like 8 or 9 minutes, which I did. Well, I was able to catch up and watch them last night on my own private copy, but there was a lot of information in those first 10 minutes, as I suspected. And sorry, someone's trying to get my attention. I'm doing an interview here.
Jesus, do you not realize we're talking to the Canadian press here?
Yeah. Anyway, so the first 9 or 10 minutes, even when I showed up to the theater, I mean, I was running. I was like, I got there and they were like, oh, you only missed like, 5 or 6 minutes. And I was like, yeah, but that's like the beginning. And I thought, oh, there'll probably be previews and I'll have a few minutes to like, grab some popcorn or whatever. But no, it started right at 7:30 on the dot. So I was able to watch the first 10 minutes and realize like, wow, I mean, I got the gist of what's happening. I know what's happening, but like the cinematography in the beginning and some of the stuff that I didn't hear later in the movie, they said in the beginning. And then I was like, see, well, because there were certain things they were referencing that I knew about because I've seen the first movie,
right?
Like about the Brahmins that live on the planet, and they, the eyes are blue because
of course,
the spice. And they told, the first 10 minutes they tell about why they need the spice, and it makes the universe go around, and people are able to time travel and all that kind of stuff. And they, because I got in late, they were talking about it. I was like, well, how do they know that? Because I don't know. So it was good to catch up on the beginning and the very opening scenes, man. Like if you want a huge movie, like massive from the get-go, huge actors, just huge effects, not over the top effects, but just huge like spacecraft and like cool stuff that us sci-fi nerds get off on, and attention to detail, all packed in like such a short amount of time, 2.5 hours. They like, this is the movie, because I was looking at every little piece of every scene, and everything it's there. It's just like, wow. I'm just in the soundtrack that's happening. I mean,
like that's the thing too, like Hans Zimmer's soundtrack, Villeneuve's attention to detail. And I mean, you remember it in Blade Runner 2049, even in Arrival, the guy is a stickler for detail. And there's no way that he was going to go into this and half-ass it. And nothing feels half-assed in this movie at all. Nothing feels half-assed. It feels like everything, for a sci-fi, and tell me if you agree with this, because this is what I walked away when I saw it. I felt that everything in this film, as much of it was a sci-fi movie, and there was tech in it, and it had ships in it, and it had a sci-fi feel. It also had an extremely organic feel. I didn't feel separated from it. Like it didn't feel like this was happening in such a faraway universe. Like I felt I could relate to the characters. Yeah,
for sure. I mean, the mother and son aspect of it, when Paul Atreides needs to be a man and like go in and speak to the whatever she is, the mother, creepy old lady. You got to put the hand in the box.
Yeah.
And she's just kind of you could feel her emotion because she's about to lose her son. He could die, because she's like, do everything the mother says, do every single thing that she says. And she's like, puts the poison dart up to his neck. And it's like, if you take your hand out, I will kill you.
That's an intense scene. And
the mom is like, she's about to throw up, and you can feel it, because I'm a parent. It's like, oh my God, you imagine if you had to like they just show up and it's like, okay, you have this test, life or death. And there's nothing you can really do but hope for the best. I mean, there's just so many good scenes to talk about in there. The only thing I was worried about was like, okay, when I go see movies nowadays, I try not to watch the preview. I just try to go in like knowing, okay, like Blade Runner, for instance. Like I don't want to see any of the previews. All the Star Wars movies, I'm like, I don't really want to see the previews. I just want to go and experience, because I know I'm going to have to see them, because I'm a Star Wars fan. But I forgot that Jason Momoa
Momoa, yeah. Jason
Momoa.
Momoa. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot that he was in it, and I really like him, but he has sort of to me he's kind of pigeonholed in the superheroes movies,
right. Yeah.
He's always smiling and he's kind of quirky and he's just like this giant muscly dude. He's Aquaman, you know what I mean? And it's like you get pigeonholed, and it's like man, can I see him in this movie and just pretend that he's just a regular Joe Schmo character? I mean, I think that's why I loved Star Wars so much. I mean, I was just a kid, but all those characters that was all their first movie.
Right.
Really.
They're relatively unknowns for sure. For sure. And I know what you mean. Momoa, like when they cast him as Duncan Idaho, I was kind of like, oh, but in this, it's not that bad.
It's not bad at all.
No.
He did a really good job. He really did. It wasn't. He didn't like. And I was afraid he's gonna be like, oh, there's Aquaman, and he's gonna tell us he's gonna do a fart joke or something like. You know what I mean? Like,
or he's gonna take off his shirt and he's gonna be Khal Drogo.
Yeah, I was like, please don't do that. But they didn't. And then Josh Brolin, fucking badass. He didn't crack a fucking smile the whole movie. He was just
he was I mean,
I remember last time I'd seen him in a movie was Jonah Hex. So we did the soundtrack, and I was like, this dude's fucking badass. And
he's a phenomenal actor. He's a phenomenal actor. I mean, when you think about everything that guy's done, and again, he's another one of those guys. He's been in everything lately. I mean, he's freaking Thanos. But when I was watching that, I wasn't thinking that he was Thanos.
Oh, he's Thanos?
He's Thanos, dude.
No shit. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So it just shows you, like, the right actor, you could have the biggest role ever, but if you're committed to what you're doing,
well, the guy that played, what's his name? I forget the character. Or the character is the Duke, but he played Poe Dameron in Star Wars.
Yeah.
That guy is, I thought he was a little cheesy in the Star Wars movies. He was a little.
Well, he was like that Han Solo character.
Yeah, kind of. He just kind of had like a lot of one-liners, which, unless they're really good, it was like, okay. But in this movie, I saw his face and I was like, oh yeah, this guy's in it too. I like him as an actor. I think he's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted, again, it's like, I get so attached to, okay, that's the guy from Star Wars. I got to get that out of my head. But he did such a really fucking great job in the movie as well.
Yeah, no, I think the performances in this, and you can tell, and it has a lot to do with Denis Villeneuve. I mean, every actor that you speak to that's worked with him, they all say the same thing. They want to do well for him. They want to perform well for him. They want to commit because he's so committed. So I think that kind of on set is just infectious. And everybody, that I've spoken to that worked on that movie have all said the same thing. I mean, you want to do well for Denis. You just want to do well for him.
Right.
I got a chance to speak to Rebecca Ferguson, and I wanted to play that interview. I wanted to play it while we were chatting, just so you could get a vibe of how respected Denis is when it comes. And I've got a lot of pride about that because he's from Montreal. He's a Quebecer, he's a Montrealer, and he's been a staple on our film scene for years. But it was just, he did Prisoners, he did The Arrival, and then of course he did 2049, which for a lot of people was a bit of a stinker in terms of box office success. But like the first Blade Runner, I think it's just going to be remembered as one of those great movies that just came out.
You can't always judge it on the box office. It's just like
100% not at all. Not at all.
Yeah, which unfortunately people do, but
yeah. Well, let me play my interview with Rebecca Ferguson, which I did a while back. It was pretty fun to chat with her. Cool. Hi, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? You just disappeared. I can't see you.
Can you see me now?
Now I can. Ooh, what's the background?
Mad Max.
Ooh, of course.
Yeah. One of my favorites. Listen,
Not anymore.
No, well, that's what I was going to say. You're very daring because this is the second time that you've gone into Holy Grail territory for me. The first one was with Dr. Sleep, because The Shining is one of my favorite movies of all time, and you knocked that out of the park. I saw Dune 2 days ago, and let me just say that I never thought that this book would be able to be translated onto the screen, and it has been done, and it was phenomenal. So yes, I am very, very excited about Dune.
Thank you for saying that. And you read it when you were young or younger, or?
I did. It was a slog to get through, but I did it. And of course, David Lynch's Dune was the only reference I had. And I quite like that movie, but this is the new
It
gold
was
standard.
outrageous. It was amazing. I mean, we can compare and not, but that's freedom of art, isn't it? And this
Exactly.
is Denis' vision.
But this is different. This is a whole other level of Dune. The cast is phenomenal. I'm from Montreal, so of course, Denis not only is a hometown hero, but one of my favorite directors of all time. What was it like to work with him?
Mine too. And also, I haven't been to Montreal, but I'm forcing myself to visit them. They're like, stop it. I'm like, no, come on. Where's my invite? This is my first time in Canada. He was one of my favorite directors. He was also, I know so many people who have worked with him. So I had the work that he'd done, the fact that I've kind of studied him, watched him, his interviews, how he speaks, which I think says so much about people. And then also that reference point of friends saying, if you ever get the chance, he is the most amazing person. And then when my agents called and said, Denis wants a meeting, I remember just feeling so overwhelmingly nervous and odd. It was a very odd territory, thinking that I might be, part of his next huge film.
Yeah, and I mean, you couldn't be part of a bigger movie than Dune. I mean, it's everyone's anticipating this. You've got your fans that are just clamoring for it. You've got the haters that are saying this will never be done. But judging from all the response that people are giving you guys at the film festivals and all the advanced critics that are seeing this, I think this is going to be really, really well received.
I'm feeling that. I kind of don't say that because I don't want to jinx it. At the same time, you know what? I'm really proud. And I don't want to say I don't care, but the people who I've talked to who have loved it, it's made my day. The fact that I see like the happiness in people's eyes, people coming up to me or saying, this is my Dune, this is how I saw it. I know how much that means. And if there will be people not liking it, that's okay. We can't all love it. I loved making it, and I can't wait for maybe a possibility of going back into the world. But
I think if that isn't done, then that's one of the biggest travesties in cinema.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
Thank you so much for taking the time today. I know you have a lot of people to speak to, but continued success, and you're just a joy to watch on screen. Thank you so much for putting everything into your work.
Thank you.
So you got to understand, when we chatted, no one had seen this movie. And the big thing, Bill, with this rollout is they put this movie out internationally everywhere. And it's coming out today in North America. But this movie has been out in almost every country except for North America. And it's been killing it. So
why do we get left behind?
I don't know. I don't know what happened. I don't know why.
What I said? Or...
I don't know. I think it's, to be honest with you, and I have my own theory behind it, but I think it might be because what happened with 2049, they did one big global, like, drop it on this day. And I think because there's so much at stake with this, they had to make this work. Like, this movie had to work because, as you know, I mean, it ends. Like, there's clearly going to be a part 2. But if it doesn't make enough money, there's not going to be a part 2, because that movie was a hell of an expensive movie to make.
I'm sure, yeah.
So
there'll be a part 2. There's got to be.
Well, now there will be, because it's killing it overseas. But I just wanted to let you.
If I have to.
Rebecca and I shacked up, and she's, dude, how awesome are these figures? You got to be on. Like, how cool are they?
That's rad.
The still suits, right? Look at them.
Oh, those are awesome, man. Yeah. The still suits in Jodorowsky's. He made one apparently for
his son.
Yeah, it looks very similar to the ones they wore in the movie. It was fucking cool.
So here we go, right? So we talk about how great Denis' movie is, but let's be honest. David Lynch's movie, there's a lot of stuff in this movie where you can see he's kind of paying respect to David's version. There's some nods, and I think the still suit was one of them, because the still suits look strikingly similar to the ones that we got in Lynch's Dune. Yeah. Which looks strikingly similar to Jodorowsky's design. So it all goes back to Jodorowsky had his no matter what you say, his movie didn't get made, but he's got his thumbprint on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, for sure. So,
you go for it.
Yeah. So the let's want to talk about the original one.
I do, because I know you've got a good story about, and like I've got every version of this movie possible. You
Oh
know,
my
they just reissued it on 4K. And they actually Arrow Video did a great transfer on 4K. It looks better than it's ever looked.
Well, it never looks as good unless it's on German Laserdisc.
Well, I've been hunting for it, but I know you're really you got the
only
German
copy. They only made one copy, and I have it.
This is so you always take you I don't think you can really you still have a hard time like accepting the fact that I still buy physical media, eh?
No, I don't. But you have like 10 copies of the same movie. So.
Yeah, but it's different artwork.
I know, I get it.
You know,
you're old you like the art, but I like vinyl too. I just I like collecting toys as well, and I collected so much fucking shit over the years. I had to stop because they keep making more and more and more cool stuff, and I don't have any room for it all. So
yeah, but Star Wars stuff. I mean, listen, like I got off the Star Wars toy bandwagon a long time ago. I mean,
I had to, but it's hard. But the Dune figures, I might have to get a set of those.
Well, there's those, and then then there's these, which these are awesome. If the old school Pops. I don't know if you get into Pops at all. So they did, they did Kyle, who played Paul Atreides, which is cool, and then they did Sting, right? Who played Faye.
Oh, sick. You got that. When did those come out?
Those come out about a year ago.
Do you have the Dune Underoos?
No. Well, actually I have them on now. Actually, they're in the wash. Julia's watching.
They come with a lot of sand is in there in your undies.
This is the fade. You remember his scene when Sting comes out and he's all oiled up? This is the chase that was only available at the New York Comic-Con. Anyways.
Wow. You're going deep, bro.
I go deep when it comes to Dune, but
that's cool though. So very cool.
So I still love Lynch's Dune, and and when I spoke to Rebecca, we talked a bit about that. But that version for me is always going to be special because it's the one I saw when I was a kid.
Yeah, I saw it when I was a kid. I saw it when I was an adult. The thing is, like when Braun and I before we were in Mastodon, we were in another band, and we were kind of stuck in this studio when we were playing in this band, living there for about a year. And we had a little black and white TV / VHS player. It was probably about like this big. And Braun had a box of VHS tapes, and one of them was Dune. And we'd watch it all the time and just be like, man, this is really cool. And we took some samples from it for some of the stuff we were doing. And there was one night when Braun and I, we lived in this little tiny town outside of Worcester, Mass, where it was everything rolled up at 10 o'clock at night, and there was nowhere to go, nothing to do. We didn't have a car or any means of transportation. So we just sat around and watched a lot of movies, and we took mushrooms one night and we're like, let's watch Dune. Oh my God, it's like the craziest movie. Let's watch Dune on hallucinogenics. And I just remember it was like a comedy.
Right.
I mean, everything's funny when you're on mushrooms, but there was just a scene where Paul Atreides is riding on the Shai Hulud, and he gets up on it and he's like riding it like a fucking rhino or whatever, but it's this massive sandworm, and his hair is parted, and there's like the wind on it, and man, it's just like the funniest. It's just kind of funny.
It's goofy, and that's the thing is that, like, especially when you watch it now, the figure. I mean, the animation that they use, you could tell that there's there's clearly something that's like a cell that's put over. Like it just looks really hokey. But back then, that's all they had. But on mushrooms, it must look even hokier.
Yeah, but it was great. It was like the world's greatest comedy. It was so funny. I mean, it's a great movie. I'm not putting the movie down. It was me who was had the effect going on in my brain. But I'll just never forget that scene of him riding on the sandworm, and I was waiting for that in the new Dune. I was like, is he gonna be riding the sandworm? Or maybe it's in part 2. I'll bet it is.
I think. Well, this is the thing, when and clearly, I mean, it's no spoiler. People, everybody knows this is a very much a part 1, and it's been marketed as a part 1. So, a lot of the stuff that Lynch fans or Dune Lynch fans were waiting for are not going to get in this movie right away. There's a whole other half that they sped in the Lynch version that you're not going to get now. So if you're
Right.
going to the cinema expecting to see that kind of stuff and expecting to see, Paul joining the Freeman and all that, I mean, we don't get that whole thing until hopefully part 2.
There was something that while I was watching it, and I rewatched the Jodorowsky's Dune today and yesterday, and it reflected exactly what I was thinking when I was watching. I was like, man, if this were to come out before Star Wars came out,
Yeah.
it'd be a whole different ball game. You know what I mean? It would be Dune everywhere instead of Star Wars. You know what I mean? Because it's a space odyssey. It's a crazy story. It's not as simple as Star Wars. It's a little more in depth, but I think that's what makes it even more interesting, is just the sheer bizarreness of some of the stuff. Like when the Baron is just floating around and it's so fucking creepy, and you're like, there's no explanation. He's just floating, and it's just like, why is that fucking guy? Why is nobody saying anything? That guy's just floating around like he's a big fat weird thing. He's just like, and I was like, I got chill bumps, man. I was like, this is really weird. I mean, I knew it was going to happen, but it's just really bizarre. And in the Jodorowsky documentary, they say the same thing. They're like, if he was made the race and got his movie done before Star Wars came out, it'd be a whole different world out there. Dune would be like everything would have came after Dune. That would have set the precedent. You know what I mean? And
because I don't know if you saw the Dune toys, like because there was an action figure line that came out in the mid 80s around that movie, and they're not great.
Yeah,
they're not great.
See them, but yeah, I don't know. It's it really took my breath away. I was just I don't want to tell anybody too much, but everybody knows what the story is with Dune. So I didn't want to, it's like you can't give anything away really. But I was like, everyone's like, how was it? It was magnificent. It was just such a well done movie. I really want to go back to the theater and see it again.
Oh yeah, it's like definitely a 2-3 time watch for me in the theater.
It's the kind of movie, I know it's coming out on like HBO Max here soon, but it's like that's the kind of thing you have to see it like in IMAX, or you have to see it on a giant screen with the proper audio, because it's just encompassing. It's just like and when they do they use the voice, it's creepy as hell. And just all the sound effects and everything. It's honestly like when you first saw Star Wars, or you first started hearing all those really weird lasers and effects and all that stuff. And it's like learning, listening all this over again. And it's like a whole new thing. It's great, especially for like a 50-year-old, guys like us who are like, who grew up on this shit. And it's not just the same shit rehashed. Like, I heard that sound before. It's like all like they just started from scratch and like just rewrote the book,
And same thing with Hans Zimmer when they were interviewing him about his soundtrack, and his soundtrack is phenomenal for this film. And there's a version that you can see, that you can listen to. It's called Sketches for Dune. And it's the longer versions of the music pieces. Some of them are about 8, 13, 14 minutes long, and they're just phenomenal. So the sound design, the music, everything about this movie is great. But, I'd be remiss if I didn't say at the helm of it all is Denis. And Denis' work on this film is just brilliant. I got a chance to chat with Denis. I have a very funny story about chatting with Denis, because I interviewed him for Blade Runner 2049 before he was announced that he was doing Dune. And I asked him a question, and we get to it here in the interview. Salut Denis.
Bonjour, comment vas-tu?
Good. How are you? Listen, this is crazy to try to do this. And in 2017, after we spoke about Blade Runner 2049, I asked you, could you do Dune for me? And you said yes. And I don't think it was announced yet, but you have totally succeeded. I saw the movie a few days ago, and I was just blown away. I never thought that this could be done, and you've managed to do it.
But listen, thank you very much for your enthusiasm. I will say that frankly, And that's the beauty of filmmaking. That's the beauty of cinema. We're talking about teamwork here. I didn't did the movie alone.
No.
Yes, I had the best team with me. I think one thing that I have as a quality as a director is that I know how to surround myself with a great team, and I choose very specifically individual artists around me that I knew will be able to bring the firepower of this novel to the screen. You know, and the biggest challenge I think was not it was definitely in the screenwriting, because the idea was to make sure that hardcore fans like me or as you, I think you are,
Yeah.
will recognize the essence of the essence of the novel, but at the same time that people that have no idea what we are talking about will totally feel welcome,
Well, exactly.
understand what it is about. That was the challenge, is to keep the essence of the novel, the complexity of the novel, and still bring something that is accessible to a wide audience.
And that's what I felt, you know, when I went in. I tried to go in the guise of being someone who knew nothing about Dune, and I was able to follow along. I didn't feel like I was left out. I felt like I understood everything. So that's a huge feat. Also, for a science fiction movie, it had such a real feel, like a natural feel to it. It didn't, you know, some science fiction movies, you don't feel a human aspect. You feel like you're so distanced from it because it's science fiction and it's far away. But this still felt tangible and relatable.
It was at the very preoccupation. The main preoccupation for me was to focus on the intimacy of Paul Atreides' journey,
Yeah.
and his relationship with his mother, and to bring all the humanity of his journey. And that at the end of the day, that's what is interesting about this story, is the dramatic aspect of it, the tragedy of Paul Atreides, and how we can relate to him and to his journey, and to bring the universality out of it, and that was the main my main preoccupation. Also, I made sure that I was obsessed by the idea that the planet should feel familiar. The audience should not be kept away with exotism, but
Yeah.
I will do totally the opposite. I will try to bring some kind of familiarity and a high realism to the planet, so that the people will, like, in the background of your subconscious, feel that feels so real. Say that, to feel that, to bring all the theme that I think are very important in the book, to bring the novel to today's world. That was the idea, to make it as close to us as possible, even if it happens in 10,191 after a guy. It's like, just to make sure that it's like close to us.
And it's very, very relatable. And the characters too have a human aspect to them. You know, the relationship between Jessica and Paul, it feels real. It feels relatable. And you can see that, you know, the love she has, but she still has this duty to, you know, the order she's a part of. So it's very, very well, you know, described in the film. So kudos to that. I mean, this is a huge, huge feat. This is a huge accomplishment. And it seems like you don't shy away from challenges. You know, 2049 is a holy grail. You know, Blade Runner is a holy grail for me. 2049 was right up there with the original. So I have to applaud you on Dune. I mean, you know, I'm gushing because I really, really enjoyed it, and I've been anticipating this forever.
Thank you very much for your enthusiasm. I will say this, when I say it's like I was dreaming to see some images coming out of the novel since a long time, and I always thought that someone will do it one day. I said, there's a movie that has not been made from the book, and I'm hoping someone will do it. And it's very strange for me that both of us are talking about it today, and I did it. But it's such a big privilege, yeah, massive, the biggest privilege of my life, to bring this novel to the screen.
Well, thank you for taking the time, and continued success. And I can't wait for part 2.
Merci beaucoup. Thank you.
Merci, Denis. Biggest privilege of his life.
That's amazing. What a great interview. Sounds like a really great guy.
He is. And he's so humble. I mean, the guy just made the biggest movie ever, and he's humble. Like, he's like, I don't get it. You know, if I was in his shoes, I probably would be such a dick.
He's probably in shock. You know, he's just like, like you said, he's like, I've seen these visions from the book come to life on the big screen for many, many years. And now I can't believe I'm sitting here with you talking about it, and I did it.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. And it's good. I'm really, really glad that you saw it. You're blown away. I saw it. I'm blown away. You're someone whose opinion I trust. So, and I know you don't mince words. If you don't like something, you'll say it's shit. So
That's for sure.
you're a lot fucking less, you're not as nice as I am. That's for sure. So, but no, I'm glad. But listen, we could talk about Dune all day, but I do want to chat with you, Mastodon a bit. I mean, I do have you here. You got a new album coming out next week, Hushed and Grim. How excited are you about this record, man? I mean, you've been sitting on this I think you've been sitting on this finished record for dare I say almost a year?
I was just talking to Braun about it today at band practice because, we're starting to relearn the songs and whatnot. It was actually a year ago this October that we got into the studio with David Bottrill, a fellow Canadian from Toronto, and started putting this record together and putting it down on tape. And, it was probably the longest time we spent in the studio just because we had, COVID and we didn't really have anywhere to be or any end date, which was great. And we did it in our own studio. So we didn't have to, wasn't like money flying out the window every time you couldn't decide on something. So there was no pressure. And we finished it earlier this year. I think it was by February, maybe we had it pretty much in the bag and ready to, actually listen to as a final thing. So it's been a while, man. It's probably the longest time we've ever had a record just sitting around waiting to be released. So, we've had Pushing the Tides, one of the tracks off the record with a video came out a few months ago, which, it's definitely it's a really good feeling when something you've worked so hard on can see the light of day and you can share it with other people. Because I've been dying to I shared it with you early on because you're my friend and I know you're not going to leak it, but
that's what you think.
But I'm excited. Let's put it. I'm more than excited. I can't wait for it to fucking come out.
Yeah, and the thing is too, I have heard it, and I've been listening to it for quite a while now, and I think also for a band like you guys don't slow down a lot, so you were really forced over the last 18 months to slow the fuck down, and you're probably used to just writing, touring, like the cycle goes. So for you guys to have to grind to a halt and really sit with something, that's probably, I don't know if it's a blessing or a curse for guys like you, because did it give you more time to nitpick on the songs?
Well, that's the thing. I kept saying let's and I've always said this, once we've got the idea for the song down, let's record it. Let's get it down. Don't it's like a painting, you got to put the brushes down at some point, and you need to keep that spontaneity of especially with a piece of music. It's got to sound fresh. It's got to sound like you haven't sat there and polished it and changed stuff and cut and pasted and done all that stuff. It's like when I write something, it's like, man, and I really feel it in my heart, like, man, this is gives me goosebumps. It makes me feel great. Like, let's record it now. Let's get it down. Let's throw their vocals down on it and just put it to the side. Don't fuck with it.
Yeah, I know when you're excited about something, because you'll message me, you'll be like, hey, you got a minute? And I'll be like, yeah, what's up? I'm at work. Listen to this. And you did that a few times on this record. I
sent you Tear Drinker, which was our first single.
Yeah. Which
just came out a couple weeks ago with the video as well. And I sent you a very early version that didn't even have, it didn't have the bass solo, and it probably didn't have a couple different parts, but I was so excited about it back then. I was like, man, this song. I was like, what do you think of this? Because it doesn't sound like us. It kind of sounds, it's different for us, but I remember you loved it. You said, and we're playing it here. I mean, I host a radio show in the city, Montreal, and we're playing it. And I was really happy when, it was brought to the music department and they were like, this fits in the playlist. So that's all. It always makes me happy when not only, we get to play a band that I like, but, if I have a friend that, it's always nice to be able to go back to your friend. Well, I knew you'd be playing it someday. I was like, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the hit. Like, this is the one.
He's either going to be playing it in his car a lot in Montreal, or he's going to get it on air.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you really, really quickly. There's got to be pressure when you come off of winning a Grammy, and you're going in to do your next record. I mean, there's got to be pressure. and I know you'll say, no, but there's got to be somewhere in the line, like from management to whoever, there's got to be someone saying, we got to live up to this now. I mean, because you're in a different category now. You're a Grammy-Award winner, so now it's like there's naturally going to be more eyes on you.
Yeah, but I honestly didn't even think about that until
I just brought it up.
No, I was actually on a run like 2 days ago, and I was on Tybee, and I was running, and I was listening to I think I was listening to Tear Drink or something, because I rarely will listen to our music after I've recorded it, because we've heard it so many times. I'm like, I don't want to hear it anymore. I'm just like, I'm done with it. But I was watching. We did a documentary for the record, and it came out really, really well. It came out really, really good. And like everybody was talking, well about each other and about Nick John, our manager, who we miss and love every day. And there's some real emotional scenes in there. And it was just done really well. And like, there's some scenes where I can hear our music playing in the background. I was like, I kind of feel like listening to our record while I'm on my run. So I started listening, and I was just I didn't have my earbuds, so I'm just holding my phone, like jogging in the hot sun, and I'm trying to listen to it. I'm like, oh, this sucks. But I was like, I started thinking about the Grammys, and you can't let that kind of pressure in, because once you start thinking about like, well, now we're like this kind of band, or now we have this kind of audience, or maybe we should sound like this, like I can't go down that road. But that doesn't mean I don't think about it, because I did think, well, I wonder if this record will, I mean, to me, this record is even deeper and better songwriting than all of our last records.
Right.
I mean, I thought Emperor Sand was amazing. And
it was,
there's a lot of really emotional, great tunes on there. And I was like, well, this record is no exception. It's just, there's a lot of stuff to choose from. And I just started thinking about it in my head, like, how does it work? Does the record company just throw the Grammys, like, here, take all these songs, we think these are could get an award or whatever? And I was like, who cares? It doesn't really matter. It's like,
I
didn't join a band to win a Grammy.
No, of course not. And listen, I like you, I grew up, I love Public Enemy, and there was always that line about who gives a fuck about a goddamn Grammy. And then, KRS-One would say the award shows for pimps and hoes and every other hypocrite to flaunt their clothes. So there was always that vibe around it. But at the end of the day, when you write music, you gotta be, to win a Grammy. Like, look at that. I mean, can we pull in on that, please? That is beautiful. That's badass. I mean, and I, as a friend, dude, paper, come on. That's something that no matter what you say, it's great, because what's great about it is that you guys did it on your terms. You didn't write to get a Grammy. You got recognized. And that's when if
we tried to write to get a Grammy, we'd still be in the van in the basement trying to get a song together.
I'm glad that you like Dune, because I think if you wouldn't have said you liked it, I would have said, okay, maybe I drank the Kool-Aid and it's because I love Denis so much. But when you said you liked it, I was like, all right, it is that good of a movie.
No, I mean, it's fucking stunning, and it's just so well done. It's fucking great. I mean, when it ended, it was like I almost fell out of my chair.
Yeah, I
was like, oh, yeah, no, well, you can't be over yet. Let's
just say I saw another movie this morning that's coming out in November from a massive studio, and I did not have that same feeling. And then I realized that there was something special. I saw a couple of stinkers after Dune, and I think that, I mean, with Denis, he's just that kind of director who's he's not like Jodorowsky. He's like not in it for the money. He's like thinking of the art, and like, hey, a lot of people are going to judge me on this. I have to make this movie as close to the book, for that intellectual spiritual experience of the book. And how do you put that onto the big screen? That's not an easy feat. And he obviously did his homework, and he fucking did it really well. So yeah. So again, thank you for taking the time. I really appreciate it, man. And I'm really looking forward to seeing the response to the record, because I think people are going to dig it.
Yeah, I know they are. I mean, Mastodon fans are gonna dig it.
Yeah, they are.
There's
They
gonna
are.
be a lot of haters who are like, "Oh, your best record was fucking 21 years ago," and it's like, okay, well, that's your opinion, but I can't. I can't write like that anymore. I've moved on, and I just can't help that. I just keep getting bigger and better and older. I can't help that.
Bill, thanks again, man, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right, Jason. Thanks you, buddy.
All right, man. Later.
Take care.
So much fun to talk to Bill. Ryan.
Bill's amazing, dude. It's so great to watch. Like people out there, I hope you know that Jason for the last year and a half has been on a project with Bill called the Kings of Quarantine, in which you guys put together these amazing covers with Kevin from Slaves on Dope, and
we didn't talk about that at all. We have to do. We're going to have to do a whole episode on Kings of Quarantine because that thing was crazy. And that again, that was a group effort. You were really involved with that, all the videos. So yeah, we're going to have Bill back to talk about Kings of Quarantine. But I'm really, really grateful again, and I have to take a minute to thank Wayne at Prospect Strings. They are our first ever sponsor here on the Rockman Power Hour, and they have an incredible website. If you have anything to do with stringed instruments, anything at all, they have got you covered. So go check them out, Prospect Strings. You can find them online. They have great customer service. They're over 5 years in business, and Wayne's got a hell of a lot of experience in the music industry. He knows what he's doing. And it's the kind of business where, you call, he'll pick up the phone and he will help you out. So Prospect Strings, go check them out. Ryan, this has been awesome. We're going to do more of this, right?
Hell yeah. In fact, episode 2 is already in the works, and one of my favorite rock heroes ever is going to be your next guest, I believe.
Yeah, we have a really, really cool guest for episode 2. I don't want to give it away just yet, but let's just say, he's been known to take a walk on the wild side. He's
danced on glass, you could say.
He's danced on glass. I do believe, if I'm not mistaken, he's been known to be a little too fast for love. And sometimes they call him Dr. Feelgood.
Yeah.
Too many hints?
Well, I know that his music kickstarts my heart.
Okay. All right. Anyways.
Yeah.
We've got a really, really cool guest for the next Rockman Power Hour. We've got another guest that we have in the works as well. And again, thank you so much for being here. Ryan, it's been a lot of fun. And is there anything you want to add? I mean, obviously after we've talked about Dune, you've heard me talking to, Denis and to Rebecca and to Bill. How excited are you to see Dune?
I'm really excited.
Have we got, because you're in a unique position. Yeah. You've never seen we've talked about the David Lynch version. We've talked about the book. You've never seen the Lynch version. And I grew up on that. So for you, you're going in like fresh, like clean slate. You are like breaking your Dune virginity.
I'm glad to do that, actually, because every time I see a superhero movie where I know nothing about the comic book, I tend to enjoy it a lot more than any purist that knows that comic book really well. So to come in and just see Denis' vision, and only Denis' vision, not have a book to reference, not have David Lynch's, nothing. Just, I'm going to see the movie for what it is. And I'm really looking forward to that because Denis Villeneuve is a cinematic genius. And I would rather him tell me a story than have to forget another one to appreciate this one.
Well, that's exactly it. And to put it in terms that you would understand, imagine going to see a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie that Marvel, Cinematic Universe, Marvel Studios has put out, and you've never seen the crappy live action version from the 70s.
Oh yeah.
And you've never seen a cartoon. Like, it's your first experience with it. That's what it's going to be like for you with Dune. It's going to be great. Your benchmark is going to be high, and you're not going to have anything to compare it to.
I'm honestly looking really forward to it. Right before we go, it just sounds to me this, like a little bit of Hollywood lore. I recall that David Lynch was asked to direct Return of the Jedi, but turned it down to do Dune instead. So that's kind of interesting that he's like, I don't want to go for the egg. I want to go for the chicken.
Yeah,
pretty much. Yeah.
And that's the thing, he made the decision, and it was a nightmare. I mean, it was a night. The production. If you ever hear Lynch's interviews, he hates that movie. He can't stand the movie. He hates it.
And Denny loves his his movie. So
and
that's really nice, you know.
And there's a lot of nods in the new movie to Lynch's Dune. There's even nods to Jodorowsky's Dune. So
awesome.
There's a lot of nods and there's a lot of respect. So and I have to say this before we go. I do not hate the David Lynch Dune movie. I actually love the David Lynch Dune movie. I grew up on that. Sting is wonderful in it. You know, it was Kyle's first ever movie, and then he went on to be you know, a legend with David with Twin Peaks, and so there's a lot of stuff in there that's great. But I tried watching that with my kids and with Julia, and they were like, "This is horrible." Like, this is just bad. And I understand it. It's like when Bill was talking about, you know, riding the sandworm. It looks a little hokey, but I still needed every version I could get on 4K because I just love doing that much.
You know, but that's the perfect thing about it. Like, I think my girlfriend, like you, likes things that are a little strange.
Yeah.
Including me, you know. So like, Dune's an acquired taste, and so am I. So I want to check out this Dune movie from the 80s because I have a feeling I'm actually going to really like it. Like, I really like hokey things. I like seeing giant monster movies where you can see the tape. I just do.
Well, we'll set aside a Dune night and we'll do it. So
me and you, I would love to see Dune with you, and I want to hear you giggle like a child at sandworm riding, and you know, yeah.
Well, just let everybody know, Dune, Denis Villeneuve's Dune is in theaters as of today in North America. So enjoy it. Go out and see it. I want to thank Warner Brothers for setting us up with these advanced screenings. I want to thank, of course, our sponsor, and we cannot not thank our sponsor, Prospect Strings. Go check them out. They've got everything that you need for stringed instruments and more. Also, I want to thank my co-host, Ryan Stick. Ryan, you're great. And I can't wait to go down this rabbit hole with you and have a lot more adventures. And I want to thank our producer, Julia Kajerski, who is, without her, I would not be able to do any of this. And she puts up with all my bullshit. So thank you. Again, make sure that you subscribe and like and hit the reminder button to get notified when we do drop a new podcast. And we will see you next time.